The UX Jobs Podcast. Let's go.
Hello, and welcome to the UX Jobs Weekly Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Sykes, and today we are back in paradise off the north shore of the island of Oahu in Hawaii. Last week, we made a pit stop in Seattle. We were there to experience the rain, and now we are back. It's great to be back in paradise. As always, the goal of this podcast is to empower you to find your dream job or dream project, and or to give you tips on how to transition into this type of work, which is user experience, user interface design. What are we talking about today? What's the big deal? Well, we are talking about artificial intelligence and how to design for it. We've got a very special guest. Sherród Faulks is with us, who's been working with AI as of late, and he is going to talk to us about his experience. It's definitely an interesting topic. It's one worth really examining. It is not so much in the future as it is on your doorstep today. And with that, I'd like to introduce our very special guest who can shed some light on this topic, Sherród Faulks. Sherród is a multidisciplinary designer and developer currently residing in Durham, North Carolina. He loves semiotics, graphic design, AI, color theory, and interfaces that feel human. And he has 2 cats. And with that, hey, Sherród, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So great to have you on the show. Long time overdue, and thank you so much for your patience today. Sherród, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, that little bio, was everything. It's pretty much sums me up. But I have a lot of different backgrounds. I come from fine arts. I come from culinary arts. I come from computer science, electronics engineering. I have a bunch of interests. So they all sort of contribute to make this sort of weird, generalized at times, specialized at times designer.
What do you think the future of AI looks like?
I think the future of AI looks like people walking around talking into thin air. I think AI is going to be very personal. I think it's going to become very private. And I think it's going to become very proactive for us.
What does that look like for, let's say, a day in the life of just maybe yourself when you get up in the morning on a Monday? How does AI influence your life getting to and from work or just in general?
So I think everyone thinks of AI and machine learning in these really, really grandiose ways. So we think, devices always telling us stuff and us talking to our personal assistant in these really specific ways. And I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it's actually going to become very subtle. So for instance, and this, in fact, works today. So you get up in the morning, and what is the first thing we all do here in 2016? We all pick up our phones. Very first thing. I think AI looks like your phone telling you it's going to take you 28 minutes to get to work because there's an accident. It is 65 degrees out, and it's probably going to rain, so you should bring an umbrella. And you have a boatload of stuff to do on your calendar, so, hurry it up. I think that's sort of a very easy first step for someone's day. I think beyond that, I think AI looks like when you get an email and it tells you, I can help you with this. Let me look up some details for you and give them to you. Or let me add this to your calendar. I think AI is going to be a lot of, let me do this for you day to day. I think that's where the sweet spot is.
Why the interest in artificial intelligence of all the things that are out there?
I think the writing's been on the wall for a long time that this is where the world of technology is heading. And one of the things that's accelerated that is this whole Internet of Things thing, how everything now can have not just a computer, but a general purpose computing device. Your thermostat, a switch in your house, your TV, your refrigerator, everything is a general purpose computer capable of executing arbitrary instruction. That's a really, really big inflection point that's happened over the last couple of years. That means that no longer do you have to build a machine that is specifically designed to perform artificial intelligence, machine learning computations. Anything can do it. That's really, really a really big deal. That means that your thermostat can now adjust itself based on when it detects you moving up and down stairs. That level of subtlety and ease of integration, I think, is what makes machine learning very important for today.
Why should people who are, I guess, either Luddites or not very technologically savvy, why should they care about artificial intelligence at all?
Well, that's just the thing. That's the great thing about, I think, the way we're progressing into the field. They don't need to. This sort of technology integrates itself into our lives in very subtle, practical ways. So the scenario that I mentioned, you picking up your phone and it telling you stuff about your day, you can do that right now. Your iPhone will do that. It will tell you about your commute because it knows you're at home, and it knows that it has learned, rather, not just knows, I should be very specific here, it has learned that about 8:05 every morning, you go to your car and you open the Waze app, and then at around 8:30, you arrive at this place that you call work in your contacts list. It's learned that over a period of time. You didn't need to tell it that. It was nothing explicit about that in the slightest. But because it's figured that out, it can now tell you things about that. And I think that's how people, normal, everyday people, not us nerds, are going to be interacting with it. Not in an explicit manner. That requires too much effort. It scares people. There are, people always have concerns about that, whether they're warranted or not. So I think that's the tack most technology companies are going to take.
I'd like to read a quote about artificial intelligence. Let me know what you think. This is from Elon Musk. And he says, I'm increasingly inclined to think that there should be some regulatory oversight, maybe at the national and international level, just to make sure that we don't do something very foolish. I mean, with artificial intelligence, we're summoning the demon. What are your thoughts about what Elon Musk had to say?
I don't get that train of thought, at least not yet. I get it. We've all seen the movies. But we are nowhere near there. I mean, we can barely get our phones to turn on half the time. And people are worried about an AI overlord. We're not there. I mean, let's keep it cute for now. We got machines that can tell us stuff about weather. They can, tell us when we drive to work. They can do some interesting things with regard to prediction. But we are nowhere near at the place where we have to be worried about things necessarily taking over. That is to say, we don't depend on AI. It depends on us at this point. There's nothing in this world that we absolutely require AI to do for us. We're not there.
Well, is it safe to say that we very well could reach that level in our lifetime, or no? What do you think?
I don't think so. I think that's a weird concept to rely on an artificial intelligence. We kind of rely on our phones nowadays, but they are discrete things. They are knowable. It is a piece of hardware that we created. We can service. It responds to us. It has no opinions of its own. Now, when we talk about something that does have opinions of its own, I can't fathom a situation that we would put ourselves in which we are completely and utterly dependent on it, such that it has now control over us. Humans, I don't think we work like that. I don't think we'll ever get to that point. I think it's a great storyline for Hollywood, but it seems very impractical. I mean, like I said, my God, the power goes out on a monthly basis. My Wi-Fi goes out constantly. We can barely get a dumb piece of hardware to work consistently. I don't think we're smart enough to get to a point where we depend on a piece of artificial intelligence.
So here's an article by Huge Inc. They say design will be less about delivering on a user's request and more about responding to the needs they haven't expressed yet. What does that mean on a granular level?
That is 100% prescient. That is exactly right, in my opinion. I think that means that our interfaces will still be explicit. We'll have buttons and touch interactions, combo boxes, we'll have keyboards. I don't think any of that's going away. But I think one thing we have to do is make room for the ability for the device to speak back to us. So a good example, actually, there's not a whole lot of great examples. Your digital assistant like Siri or Google Now or what have you, they do it. It's like a back and forth dialogue, and they can present you auxiliary information. But we have to, as designers, have to start thinking about ways to accommodate the opinions and the thoughts of the machine, which is something we've never done before. And it's very exciting, but it's going to be like the Wild West for a while. Everyone's going to have a different idea of how it should work.
You mentioned that the power goes out frequently and that, Wi-Fi goes down occasionally. One of the worries is that AI could have a huge opportunity to upset users because, and I quote, humans are much less likely to forgive machines than they are to forgive other humans. So one of the challenges will be for designers to build systems that will somehow prevent negative emotional responses. How would you go about doing something like that?
I think it's sort of built into us to kind of reject machines when they screw up. But I think one of the ways we can help that is by offering a way for the user to alter or respond to that. So the idea of a feedback loop. So let's say a machine is telling you, giving you its opinion on something. Oh, it's going to rain today. Well, it's very obviously not. It's sunny. It's 6 o'clock at night. It's not going to rain. A way to say, no, you're wrong, I think would give the user a level of control that might make them feel a little more confident about the system speaking to it in that way. Now, instead of it just, talking to you, now you're able to not only talk back, but correct it, which I would think that would make a user feel a little bit better about whatever system they're using. It's been, I think, a feature that's been really lacking. Again, we're at the very beginning stages of this, but I think that's something that's been lacking in a lot of systems that I've been seeing, a way for just a layperson to correct something.
If my entire home is an intelligent system, it starts from every touch point. The bed knows how I sleep. It is aware of the way I move in my sleep. It is aware of my sleep states. I am gently nuzzled awake by my intelligent bed, which is perfectly climate controlled to whatever my body temperature preferences are. I wake up, I lean up out of bed, I put my feet on the floor, which automatically detects my initial weight. So that feeds into any of my weight goals or probably my BMI as well as my water intake. My waking height is probably instantly measured. Any doors that by accident are closed are now opening in preparation for my arrival to the sink. The toilet is automatically monitoring my chemical output. The toothpaste is already on the toothbrush, which immediately comes out of the wall presented to me, and I begin to brush my teeth. Or, potentially, I don't even have to brush my teeth anymore. The system automatically knows where it's supposed to brush, how it's supposed to brush, depending on the density of my teeth enamel and any problems that I have inputted. The outfit, the clothes that are clean automatically appear. I put on those clothes, they automatically adjust to any weight loss or gain, so they're auto stretching potentially. The shoes are the same. They auto adjust based on how much I weigh that day or based on if I'm retaining any water. Everything is automatically adjusting to my personal preferences. As I wake up, as I get dressed, prepare for the day, as I walk into the kitchen, as I prepare to do whatever I want to do that moves me towards my life goal. Is there any part in that I'm missing that would be that's part of the intelligent home experience?
So I think it's important to make a distinction between some words. I think it's important to talk about sensing and detection as one thing and intelligence and response as another. Because any device can detect anything. A dumb device can sense and send it to another dumb device, which can then tell you about it. That's not intelligence. There's no learning going on. Intelligence, very specifically, in that wonderful definition you gave, very specifically requires learning and a response to that, some form of output. So I think it's when we talk about artificial intelligence and how we design for it, we need to make sure we're actually talking about something that is passively, or I guess actively, learning from what we do. So in your scenario, things like the time you usually get out of bed is learning. That you got out of bed is sensing. Anything can do that. That you always wash your hands right after you use the toilet is learning. Using the toilet is sensing. So I think that's our first jumping off point. From there, I think your vision sounds fabulous, first of all. It's like the Jetsons remade, grittier by Christopher Nolan. It's fabulous. I want to live there. I think we sometimes overreach in these visions. This is a lot, I think, for most people. I think most people would be frightened, if stuff started. Imagine if you were moving through your house and stuff started responding to you as you were moving. It's like poltergeist. It would freak me out. I would never want that. I would lose my mind. Water starts turning on. The toilet starts flushing. My bed starts vibrating. Like I'm getting palpitations now just thinking about it. So while it's great and really, really cool to think about, Hollywood would have a field day, I'm not so sure that that's where we're headed. I think it's really, at least in our lifetime, going to be a matter of personalization. What I look good in today. Project what you think what would look good onto my body. I think it's going to be a matter of suggestion. I think it's going to rain today. You should probably take your umbrella. And I think it's going to be a matter of opinion. Looks like you've got a really busy day. Maybe you should leave 15 minutes earlier. And by the way, here's the fastest route because that other one has an accident. So I think that's where we're going to see that sort of intelligent home, how we're going to see the intelligent home take form.
So that is only the intelligent home portion of that. But what about medical? Now, I know you're working on a current AI project. Do you want to briefly bring us up to speed on what you're working on? Yeah,
so the premise is there is an automated medical assistant, basically, a sort of AI nurse that can keep track of what's going on with your patients from moment to moment, whereas nurses are not necessarily the best, because we're humans, at spotting trends over time. Computers are great at that. That's all they do is look at data. Humans, not so much. So the idea is that this thing can tell you when things are happening with your patient that you might not necessarily know about. You stepped out of a room and you thought your patient was just fine. Oh, they've just taken a really bad turn for the worse, and you're nowhere near another alarm, which is something that nurses rely on, or anything that could tell you that. Well, this assistant could. Not only could it tell you that, it could suppose why it thinks that's happening based on the data it's gathering. So the idea is, it's, basically another nurse in your pocket.
What are the challenges that you've come across in trying to design for AI?
Oh, first and foremost, it's creepy. Everyone across the board from every walk of life thinks it's really, really creepy. Like I said, imagine walking to your house, stuff starts turning on, you start hearing voices. That would freak anybody out. It's the same way with devices that always seem to be like watching you. That's one of the things that gets people. It's always like listening and watching, and what is it doing? I really don't. That really freaks people out. So one of the biggest challenges has been making it feel human and not like it's always there. Even though it is, making it not feel like Big Brother is always watching you. That's been a really, really big one. I mean, that creep factor, we have got to overcome that somehow, because that is really going to hold us back.
How do you eliminate the creep factor? I mean, outside of just being out of my sensorial purview.
I think one of the best ways is to make the interface feel like another person. So it doesn't feel like we don't expect people to always be watching us, paying attention to us, listening to us. So in order to make it feel a lot less creepy, I think it's useful to have it speak to us in a natural way. Sort of like how Siri does. You ask it a question and it gives you these responses that don't feel quite so canned. It's got a ways to go, but it gives you various like slang. It can tell you in slightly different ways, so it doesn't feel like you're talking to something so robotic. I think beyond that, minimizing the fact that it's always listening is super important. So here's an example, and this is real world, by the way. So if you think this is creepy, pay more attention to what's going on around you. But like Gmail, for instance. It's always reading your emails, and it gives you those creepy ads. It's like you just got an email from someone about, 4th of July hot dogs. And then you get that little ad that's like, ballpark hot dogs on sale at Food Lion, stuff like that. Or your device, for instance, think about this one. Your device, you're talking, have a conversation with your friend. You pick up your phone, and you see a notification that says, I heard you talking about the nearest shoe store. Here are 6 stores near you. Now that's freaky. Who wouldn't be freaked out? Oh my God, this thing is listening to every word I say. Are you serious? No, we have to be more careful with that. The device really, it should be listening. Get it? Makes sense. But it doesn't need to say it's listening. It doesn't need to act as if it knows everything that's going on around it. That's not an expectation we have for humans. I think we need to find ways to integrate that information into more natural ways, more contextual ways. So it's just not so weird all the time.
You briefly touched on the creep factor of the ads that run contextual to people's Gmail. You're brushing on retargeting or remarketing, and if it makes you feel any better, I actually worked on the UI at Google that was responsible for all that lovely stuff.
Oh, great.
Yes, you go to Nike, you look at a pair of shoes, you decide not to buy, and sure enough, any other website you go to displays that exact pair of shoes.
That's that creep factor. Now I know something is always watching me. Because I didn't tell nothing that. Something is watching. Get it away from me.
Delete your cookies. That's all I gotta say.
Well, but that's what us nerds know. But you know my mama don't know nothing about no cookies.
The use cases for both Internet of Things and artificial intelligence need to be blaringly obvious.
Oh, yeah, totally. And like Nest has done such a great job with it because their tagline is the thermostat that pays for itself. Who in this world doesn't want to save money, especially on that thermostat bill in the middle of July? A thermostat that pays for itself? Tell me more. I think that's one way to make a use case blaringly obvious and not be a nerd about it. It doesn't need to say, touch sensitive thermostat for your home. Who cares? But it saves you money? Okay, well, now we can talk about it. And I think the same is true for AI applications. I don't need to know that it's listening to me. I don't want to know that it's listening to me. Oh, but it can tell me, I don't know, how my day is gonna play out for the rest of the day, and if I'm going to be late to something. Oh, that's useful.
And this is what we talked about with the whole big data discussion. It's sort of, if you had a God's eye view of data, and I mean data from the choices that you make every moment of every day, every impact that your choices had on the lives of others, would you make different choices? That's the question. And the answer for me is absolutely. If I knew the impact from a God's eye view of data that my choices had both on my life and the lives of others, I would definitely choose different. Now, if that data was available to me and presented through an artificial learning computer that came to me in a very friendly, neighborly, somebody I've known for years type of experience, what would that do to my life? It would help me optimize my life to better achieve every or any goal that I want. Which comes down to, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do with your time? And then have that information fed directly into a God's eye view of data coupled with an artificial intelligence to help me achieve those goals. I mean, I just can't imagine the optimization would just be off the charts.
I think there's so much room for these sorts of systems to help I could stop the sentence there, to help you, but to help you with things that maybe because it's a computer and it knows everything, can help you that you didn't even consider. Shave minutes, hours off of your day where, you might not have thought twice about it otherwise. But then again, there's still a matter of us letting it do that for us. We are in control at the end of the day. So just because it suggests an alternate route that's 10 minutes faster, I don't like the part of town that goes through, so I am not taking that. We always have that ability to nullify what the machine is saying to us. So where do we start? How do we get people to start allowing the machine to make decisions and suggestions for us? That's the real question here.
So let's imagine I'm out there, you're one of the UX Jobs podcast listeners, and you're thinking to yourself, artificial intelligence, AI, I want to design for that. Sherród, what are the first steps that I need to take to actually move in that direction?
So I think with just like anything else we do in this business, we need to start with what is the problem I'm trying to solve. Because sometimes the problem is really not so difficult that we can't engineer another solution around it. But sometimes the problem is not so clear, and I think that's one of those times that AI can help. So let's start with your problem. I think the next step is understand different kinds of machine learning. So it's a huge, huge field. And you need to understand how machines actually learn. How do they get to the point of being able to give suggestions? What sort of inputs do they require for any particular kind of learning algorithm? What kind of outputs does that give? That's super important. I think as designers, especially in this kind of field, we can no longer just be designers. We need to know a bit more technical background about it. We can't just sort of come up with these beautiful ideas and then, oh, that's not possible. So definitely spend some time learning. And there's lots and lots of great books out there about getting into machine learning and artificial intelligence. I think after that, we really have to start thinking about the interface. How does it communicate with us? Is it like an in-our-face thing telling me what to do? Or is it a suggestion? Or is it a question? Does the machine need feedback from us? Is this something that a user will want to respond to? Is the interaction made better or worse with the user's response? I think those are like the first 3 steps, I would say. So problem, then learning about machine learning, and then the interface.
Now, on an even granular scale, are there AI libraries that I can reference in my code? Or
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, the field is so wide open at this point that there's stuff everywhere you turn. So Google, I believe, I hope I'm not saying the wrong company. I'm pretty sure it's Google, introduced a whole machine learning API system a few months ago. I really wish I could remember the name of it. I'm going to type really quickly. Let's see if I can find it. So Google has one. Here it is. Google Prediction API is one, and Google Cloud Machine Learning is the one I'm thinking about. Does things like predictive analysis, powers Google Now, Google Photos. This is probably what a lot of people are looking for. So beyond that, there is a library called TensorFlow, which is, I'm hearing nothing but good things about it. Now, these are like technical things. So you need to have some sort of programming acumen, and you need to understand a lot of concepts about artificial intelligence and machine learning. So definitely don't dive into these unprepared. But these, if you're technically inclined, this is what you're looking for. Beyond that, I mean, artificial intelligence encompasses so many fields. You don't necessarily have to go straight into machine learning. There are other systems that may give you what you're looking for. One common thing is computer vision. So there's a library called OpenCV, and it's super. In fact, I've used that one myself. Super easy to use, and it's the idea of making computers vision systems like the camera on your MacBook or the camera on your iPhone, taking that data and turning it into something meaningful. So letting a camera understand what it's seeing in the world around it. That is a wide open field, also falls under the category of AI, and is pretty easy to get into, I would say. If I can do it, y'all can do it for sure.
Here's a quote from Stephen Hawking. I'd love to get your feedback on it. Stephen states, "One can imagine such technology outsmarting financial markets, out-inventing human researchers, out-manipulating human leaders, and developing weapons we cannot even understand. Whereas the short-term impact of AI depends on who controls it, the long-term impact depends on whether it can be controlled at all." What are your thoughts on long-term AI taking over?
This is interesting. So, I mean, on the one hand, it takes us back to that Elon Musk sentiment about, things have running rampant all over us. I don't think that's going to happen. I would be interested to see if history proves me wrong. I was wrong once in 2007. It hasn't happened again, but, it's possible. But I think there is something to the first part of what he said about them getting a little too smart for us. So a good example of that is this concept of evolutionary design or generational design. So the idea is that given a set of inputs and a desired output, a machine can find optimal solutions to a problem over time in a generational fashion, such that the first version of it that it creates is terrible, and it gets better and better and better and better. This is not super new either. A lot of companies are using this concept. For instance, Nike just made a shoe using evolutionary design given what, how a human foot works, what we consider to be comfortable, what they want the shoe to do, they want it to perform better on hard surfaces than grass. They asked the machine to come up with, design a shoe, make it. And it looks bizarre, but it is genius in its design. It works exactly as one would want it. It is perfectly designed for the human foot, and it's something, and pay close attention to this part, it's something that no human could ever have created. I think that's where Stephen Hawking is going with his sentence. It is entirely, and as we can see, doable now, that these machines can come up with things that we simply couldn't. Now, for example, when it comes to weapons, a machine could design a biological weapon that no human could ever conceive of, that is able to do things that run rampant on human civilization. Entirely possible. I would be shocked if someone around this world were not doing that right now. I think there is danger in that, but I don't think it's avoidable. I think that's just the way things are going to be. In just the same way that we have machines that can do harm, we have to get good at making machines that can do good. There's no reason that, computer is unbiased. There's no reason we cannot make it go one way or the other. So I think just as much as we have to temper our own temperaments with regard to what we design, I think we have to think about defending ourselves in just the same, using the same tools as the bad guys. I don't see any reason not to. I think it would be foolish not to.
And with that, Sherród, it's been an absolute joy having you on today. Thank you so much for being part of the UX Jobs podcast. Again, folks, if you want to hear more of Sherród, he will be a guest in future months, hopefully, and he runs a phenomenal YouTube channel and food blog at Slice and Tort, SliceandTorte.com. And Sherród, thank you so much. It's great to have you today.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. It's been so much fun.